What if I told you that a simple 1953 Lincoln Wheat Penny, a coin most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up, could be worth thousands of dollars and, in rare cases, life-changing value that shocks even seasoned collectors? Stay with me, because this is one of those coins that hides big money in plain sight. First, let's clear something up. There is no such thing as a 1953 Lincoln Wheat dollar. If you ever hear that phrase, that's your first red flag, or your first clue that something unusual is going on. The 1953 Lincoln Wheat coin is a 1-cent piece. But don't let that tiny denomination fool you. Some of these pennies have sold for more than a brand new car. Now imagine this. It's 1953. America is in the early years of the Cold War. The Korean War has just ended. Dwight D. Eisenhower is about to become president. And the U.S. Mint is still striking the classic wheat cent design that began in 1909. Hundreds of millions were produced that year. Philadelphia struck over 256 million. Denver struck more than 700 million. San Francisco added over 180 million. Those numbers sound massive. So how could a coin made in the hundreds of millions hold hidden treasure? Because condition and mistakes change everything. Let's start with identification. Look at the obverse. You'll see Abraham Lincoln's portrait facing right. The date 1953 is on the right side. Under the date, you may see a mint mark. No mint mark? That's Philadelphia. A small d? That's Denver. A small s? That's San Francisco. Flip it over. You should see 2 wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. Now here's where it gets exciting. Most 1953 pennies you find will be brown. That's normal. Copper oxidizes over time. But if you find one that is bright, blazing red, almost glowing, your pulse should quicken. Collectors pay serious big money for full red examples graded in high mint state. A 1953 Lincoln Wheat Penny graded MS67 red has sold for several $1,000s at auction. Let that sink in. 1 cent, turning into thousands, simply because it survived untouched for 70 years. And here's the shocker. In ultra-high grades like MS68 red, registry collectors have pushed prices above $10,000. That's life-changing value from a coin that once bought a stick of gum. But we're just getting started. Let's reset your attention with something even more powerful: errors. The 1953 Lincoln cent has known double-die varieties. Look closely at the date and the word Liberty. On certain double-die obverse examples, you'll see clear separation in the numbers or letters. The doubling should look rounded and distinct, not flat or shelf-like. A strong double-die 1953 D penny in mint state can bring anywhere from $500 to $2,000 or more depending on grade and visibility. And then there are repunched mint marks. On some 1953 D and 1953 S pennies, the mint mark was punched more than once into the die. Under magnification, you might see a shadow of another D or S slightly offset. These RPM varieties can sell for $100 to $400 in higher grades. Sometimes more if the repunching is dramatic. Now here's where collectors in both the US and UK should lean in. There are also dramatic off-center strikes from 1953. If you find one that's 10% to 50% off-center and the full date is visible, you could be holding a coin worth $300, $800, even over $1,500 depending on the eye appeal. Clip planchets? Those curved bites missing from the edge can bring hundreds. Broad strikes, where the coin appears wider than normal and lacks a proper rim. Also valuable, but here's a detail many people miss. The rim itself tells a story. Examine the edges carefully. A sharp, squared rim with full detail indicates strong strike quality. Weak rims combined with brilliant red surfaces and high grade can push values into the thousands. Now let's talk proof coins. In 1953, the Philadelphia Mint produced proof Lincoln cents specifically for collectors. Only about 128,800 proof coins were struck. Proofs are different. They have mirror-like surfaces and razor-sharp detail. If you tilt the coin and the background reflects like glass, you might have a proof. High-grade proof 1953. D-cents graded PR 68 red have sold for several $1,000s. Deep cameo examples, with frosted lettering and mirrored fields, can command even more. Imagine discovering that in an old family collection. But wait, there's an even more mysterious angle. Transitional errors. While 1953 D-cents were struck in bronze, there are rumors and collector whispers about off-metal strikes. Coins struck on the wrong planchet. These are extremely rare, but when authenticated, off-metal errors can bring 5 figures or more. That's hidden treasure on an entirely different level. Now let's talk reality. Most 1953 D pennies in circulated condition are worth only a few cents to maybe $1. But here's the emotional truth. The difference between 1 cent and $10,000 is condition, rarity, and knowledge. How do you evaluate yours? First, check the color. Brown is common. Red-brown is better. Full red is where the big money lives. Second, inspect Lincoln's cheek and jawline. Any flatness means wear. Third, check the wheat stalks on the reverse. Strong. Sharp lines equal higher grade. Fourth, use magnification to inspect the date Liberty and mint mark for doubling or repunching. Fifth, examine the rim for abnormalities like clips or broad strikes. And here's another shock. Many collectors overlook 1953 because it isn't considered a key date. That means high-grade examples often sat unnoticed in rolls for decades. Some of the highest price examples discovered in the past 20 years came from old bankrolls that collectors forgot about. Think about that. How many inherited coin jars are sitting in homes right now across America and the UK? How many wheat pennies were tucked away by grandparents who lived through the 1950s? Some of those coins have already turned into big money at auction. Others are still waiting. This is why coin collecting is so powerful. It's not just metal. It's history, it's mystery, it's possibility. The 1953 D. Lincoln Wheat Penny may look ordinary, but under the right conditions, it transforms into hidden treasure with life-changing value. And here's what I want you to do right now. Don't assume your 1953 D. penny is common. Check it, study it, turn it under light. Look for that flash of red. Look for doubling. Look for that tiny mint mark. Because somewhere out there, a 1953 Lincoln Wheat Penny is sitting unnoticed, worth thousands, waiting for someone who understands what they're holding. And in our next video, we're going to reveal another overlooked wheat cent that has stunned collectors with 5-figure auction results. If you don't want to miss the next big money coin hiding in plain sight, make sure you're subscribed, because the next life-changing value discovery might already be in your pocket. What if I told you that a single penny from 1952 could be worth not 1 cent, not $1, but thousands of dollars in big money, and that one might still be hiding in a jar, drawer, or an old family collection right now? Today, we're talking about the 1952 D. Lincoln Wheat Penny, a coin that most people overlook, but serious collectors know can hold hidden treasure and even life-changing value under the right conditions. Now, at first glance, the 1952 D doesn't seem dramatic. It wasn't struck during wartime steel shortages like 1943. It doesn't have the fame of a 1909 SVDB. It's just a simple wheat penny from the Denver Mint. Or is it? Here's the mysterious part. In 1952, the Denver Mint struck over 746 million Lincoln Wheat cents. That's a huge number. So how could something made in the hundreds of millions be worth big money? Because in coin collecting, rarity isn't always about how many were made. It's about how many survived in pristine, untouched condition, and how many escaped the mint with dramatic errors. And this is where things start to get shocking. Let's talk condition first, because this is where life-changing value begins. Most 1952 D pennies you'll find today are brown, worn, and heavily circulated. They're worth a few cents. But if you find one in blazing red mint state condition, we're talking bright original copper color, no wear, strong luster, the value jumps dramatically. A 1952 degraded MS65 red can sell for hundreds of dollars. Move up to MS66 red, and you're often looking at $500 to $1,000 depending on eye appeal. But here's the real shocker. Superb gem examples graded MS-67 red have sold for several $1,000s at auction. Yes, a 1-cent coin selling for thousands. That's big money hiding in plain sight. Now, let's reset your attention. The real excitement begins when we talk about full red versus brown. When identifying your 1952 D, look at the color. Copper coins are graded as brown BN, red brown RB, or red RD. A fully red coin retains nearly all of its original mint color. That fiery orange-red glow is what collectors crave. And that's what brings hidden treasure prices. Tilt the coin under a light. Do you see a cartwheel luster effect spinning across the surface? That's a strong sign of mint state quality. Now let's move to something even more suspenseful. Mint mark details. On the obverse, just below the date 1952, you'll see a small D mint mark for Denver. Examine it closely. There are known varieties where the mint mark appears slightly repunched, meaning the D was struck more than once in slightly different positions. Repunched mint marks, often called RPMs, can bring strong premiums depending on clarity and condition. Some 1952 D RPM varieties have sold for $100 to $300 in high grades. But wait, it gets better. There are also double die varieties on the 1952 D. You'll want to examine Liberty. In God we trust, and the date itself. True double dies show rounded, separated doubling, not flat mechanical doubling. When strong, these varieties can sell for several $100s, especially in mint state. And here's where collectors get really excited. The reverse. Turn the coin over and look at the wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. On high-grade coins, the wheat lines will be sharp and fully separated. Weak strikes reduce value. Strong, crisp details increase it dramatically. But there's another hidden treasure category. Error coins. Off-center strikes from 1952 D exist. If you find one that's 10%, 20%, or even 50% off-center, and the date is still visible, you could be holding a coin worth $200, $500, even over $1,000 depending on severity, and eye appeal. Clip planchets are another exciting possibility. Look for a curved bite missing from the edge. Genuine clips will show a slight weakness on the opposite rim called the Blakesley effect. These can bring hundreds of dollars. Broad strikes, coins struck without a collar, will appear wider than normal with no defined rim edge. Again, strong premiums. Now, let's talk about something truly shocking. There have been rare cases where Lincoln cents from the early 1950s were struck on wrong planchets, including foreign coin blanks. While extremely rare, authenticated wrong planchet errors from this era have sold for thousands of dollars. Imagine finding a 1952 D that weighs differently than the standard 3.11 grams. That could signal something extraordinary. Let's ground this in real auction results. High-grade 1952 D Lincoln Wheat cents graded MS-67 red have crossed the auction block for well over $3,000 in top registry quality examples. Collectors competing for the finest known sets are willing to pay astonishing prices for the very best. That's life-changing value compared to 1 cent. And here's the emotional truth. Most of these coins were spent, dropped into cash registers, tossed into penny jars, scratched, dulled, forgotten. But somewhere out there, a few survived untouched in rolls, old bank-wrapped bundles, or family collections. Now I want you to focus carefully, because this is how you identify potential big money. Step 1. Confirm the date reads 1952 and the mint mark below it is a D. Step 2. Check the color. Is it bright red or mostly brown? The more original red, the higher the potential value. Step 3. Examine the surfaces for wear. Look at Lincoln's cheek and jawline. Any flatness means circulation. No wear and strong luster? That's promising. Step 4. Inspect the mint mark for signs of repunching. Step 5. Look closely at Liberty and the motto for doubling. Step 6. Flip to the reverse and study the wheat stalk details. Step 7. Weigh the coin if possible. A major weight difference could indicate a dramatic error. And here's another attention reset. Even average circulated 1952 D pennies can be worth more than face value simply because of copper content and collector demand. But the real hidden treasure lies in condition and varieties. This is why coin collecting is so thrilling. You're not just searching for old metal. You're hunting for overlooked perfection, for mistakes the mint never meant to release, for pieces of history that survived against the odds. And let's not forget the historical backdrop. 1952 was a final full year before major design changes loomed later in the decade. America was in the early Cold War era. These pennies passed through diners, gas stations, and movie theaters across the country. Each one carries that history, but only a tiny fraction carry big money potential. Some of you watching right now inherited wheat pennies from parents or grandparents. You may have rolled your eyes at the jar of old pennies. Don't, because that jar could contain life-changing value. And here's the cliffhanger. There's another wheat penny from the early 1950s that has produced even more shocking auction results. A coin so similar that most people mix them up. If you don't want to miss your next chance at hidden treasure and big money, make sure you subscribe right now. Then go check every 1952 D Lincoln Wheat Penny you can find, because the difference between 1 cent and thousands of dollars might be sitting in your home at this very moment. What if I told you that a single 1939 penny, yes, a tiny 1 cent coin, could be worth hundreds, thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars in big money today? And one might be sitting in an old tin, a forgotten album, or even mixed in with spare change right now. Today, we're diving into the mysterious and surprisingly powerful 1939 Lincoln penny, a coin that most people overlook, but seasoned collectors know can hide serious treasure. Now, 1939 doesn't scream rarity at first glance. The Great Depression was still casting its shadow over America. Europe was sliding into World War II. The United States Mint was striking millions of coins to keep commerce alive. In Philadelphia alone, over 316 million Lincoln cents were minted that year. Denver struck over 15 million. San Francisco added just over 52 million. Those numbers sound big. So, how could something made in the millions have life-changing value? Because in coin collecting, the real story isn't just about mintage. It's about survival, condition, and mistakes. And 1939 has some shocking ones. First, let's talk about the 3 mints. If there's no mint mark under the date, that's Philadelphia. A small D means Denver. A small S means San Francisco. The mint mark sits right below the 1939 date on the obverse, just under Lincoln's shoulder. Now, here's your first big money moment. A 1939 S. Lincoln cent in average circulated condition might only be worth a few dollars, but in blazing red mint state, we're talking MS-67 red, examples have sold for several $1,000s. That's right, 1 cent turning into thousands simply because it survived untouched for over 80 years. Why? Because copper is fragile. Most 1939 pennies turn brown from oxidation. Finding one that's still bright, fiery red is like discovering hidden treasure frozen in time. Tilt your coin under a light. Do you see that spinning cartwheel luster? Is the color vibrant red rather than dull brown? If yes, your heart should start beating a little faster. But wait, this is where it gets even more suspenseful. The real star of 1939 isn't just high-grade examples, it's the errors. The 1939 double die reverse is one of the most exciting varieties in the entire wheat cent series. And here's how to spot it. Flip the coin over, look at the words 1 cent and United States of America. On genuine double die examples, you'll see clear, rounded doubling on the lettering. The doubling isn't flat or shelf-like. It looks like 2 impressions slightly offset from each other. This is a machine doubling. This is a true double die, created when the die itself was misaligned during hubbing, and collectors love it. A strong 1939 double die reverse in mint state can bring thousands of dollars. Even circulated examples can sell for several hundred to over 1,000 depending on clarity. Imagine pulling a penny from a box and realizing those letters are doubled. That's big money hiding in plain sight. Now let's reset again. There's another fascinating variety. The 1939 repunch mint mark, especially on San Francisco issues. Look closely at the S mint mark. Under magnification, you may see traces of another S beneath it, slightly offset. That repunching happened when mint workers manually corrected misaligned punches. These RPM varieties can sell for $100, $200, even more in high grades. And that's not all. Offsetter strikes from 1939 exist. If you find one that's 10% to 50% offsetter and the date is fully visible, you could be looking at $300 to over $1,000 depending on severity. And eye appeal, clip planchets are another hidden treasure category. Look for a curved bite missing from the edge. Genuine clips will show weakness directly opposite the clip. These often sell in the hundreds. Broad strikes, where the coin was struck without the retaining collar, appear wider than normal with no defined rim. Those two bring strong premiums. Now, let's talk auction reality. High-end registry collectors compete fiercely for top pop coins. A 1939 Lincoln cent graded MS-68 red is sold for over $20,000 at auction. That's life-changing value from a 1-cent coin. Let that sink in. $20,000 for a penny. And here's something even more dramatic. Some 1939 proof Lincoln cents were struck for collectors in Philadelphia. These proof coins have mirror-like fields and razor-sharp details. Only around 13,000 proofs were minted that year. In top condition, PR-68 red. These proofs have sold for over $10,000. Deep cameo examples can command even more. So how do you know if you have a proof? Look for mirror surfaces. The background should look reflective, almost like glass. The details will appear frosted and extremely sharp. Proof coins were not meant for circulation, so finding one in change would be astonishing, but it has happened. Now let's slow down and walk through identification step by step, because this is where hidden treasure becomes real. Step 1. Confirm the date reads 1939. Step 2. Check for a mint mark under the date. No mark means Philadelphia. D for Denver. S for San Francisco. Step 3. Evaluate color. Brown coins are common. Red-brown are better. Full red is where the big money starts. Step 4. Examine Lincoln's cheek and jaw. Any flatness indicates wear. Crisp detail with no smoothing? That's promising. Step 5. Flip to the reverse and inspect the lettering for doubling. Focus on 1 cent. And United States of America? Step 6. Inspect a mint mark for repunching, if it's A, D, or S. Step 7. Examine the rim. Is it full and sharp? Any signs of broad strike? Any missing metal indicating a clip? And here's another shocking reminder. Most 1939 pennies were spent on groceries, newspapers, bus fare. They jingled in pockets during the early days of World War II. They passed through hands that are long gone, but a few survived untouched, sealed in rolls, tucked into collections forgotten in drawers. Those survivors are the ones bringing big money today. And I want you to think about this. How many people dumped old wheat pennies into jars in the 1960s and 70s when copper prices rose? How many of those jars are still sitting in attics across America and the UK? Because yes, UK collectors pay close attention to American wheat cents too. The Lincoln series has global demand. That means your 1939 penny isn't just an American coin. It's part of an international market. And in that market, condition and rarity equal life-changing value. Here's the emotional truth. The difference between 1 cent and $10,000 isn't luck. It's knowledge. It's knowing what to look for. It's taking the time to flip that coin over and study the letters. It's understanding that doubling isn't damage, it's treasure. So tonight, I want you to open that drawer. Pull out that jar. Spread those wheat pennies across the table. Look for 1939. Look for mint marks. Look for doubling. Look for blazing red color. Because hidden treasure doesn't announce itself. It waits. And somewhere out there, a 1939 Lincoln penny is still sitting unnoticed, worth big money, waiting for someone who knows what they're looking at. Make sure that someone is you. And if you want to discover the next penny that could be worth even more than this one, a coin that has shocked collectors with 6-figure auction results, subscribe right now. Because the next life-changing value coin we reveal might already be in your pocket.